Reinhardt is the only hero who's acceptable to be overpowered, both by the Overwatch community and the Blizzard devs themselves, so it seems. Because this doesn't feel like there's a community outcry due to how strong Reinhardt is, and since the devs in the patch yesterday didn't address him at all, and if anything, made his comp better by buffing Baptiste, Rein is going to continue to be a ranked pub stomping character. But maybe that's okay, and may mark an important transition for the balance philosophy in Overwatch 2, finally being cemented now that we've had some time with the new lead hero designer. This is from the developer's blog a few weeks ago, February 24th, at the start of Season 3. Reinhardt has the highest win rate of tanks for most tiers, reaching about 58% win rate in Bronze through Platinum. At Masters and above, Sigma edges him out and sits at 55% in top 500. I'd be curious to know, and we don't ever have access to the full data because I think there would be a lot of red flags in there that we would go crazy about if we did. But to me, this feels like an outrageous number. And at least anecdotally, I can see the reason for that win rate being so severe. Not only do players know how to play around a Rein, they almost necessitate one because metal rank players' biggest weakness is lack of cover usage. So picking a tank who is movable cover automatically gains a massive advantage, whereas at the higher ranks, players are using cover better and playing around Reinhardt's weaknesses better, so it's much harder for him to see value. Although he's still good, it was no surprise to me that Sigma would be considered better. To be honest, I'm pretty happy with Blizzard's non-response to this issue. There's some pretty OP things about Rein right now. The Fire Strike buff, meh, that's a decent change, good if you can aim it, but I think the pin change is the one that really changes his tempo, because you can get multiple pins off in a fight, meaning multiple kills potentially, or at least multiple repositions, getting in and then out again. That turns Rein into the choo-choo train he looks like when he's in the conductor skid. And for most players that don't know how to navigate around where he will fight, where he will zone, and frankly, how much he can tank, he's just going to do a lot more on the front line easier than a lot of the other tanks, which are more technical. Like imagine if Orisa had a shield for her team as well. That's sort of what it feels like when you play him properly. Overall though, I'm optimistic about them not trying to reverse gears too hard because I think the game plays better when Rein is good. It's a good base point to have if they want other tanks to be more viable, you know, rework them a bit, I guess. But there's no getting away from the fact that metal rank players were good at playing around Rein anyway, and you can't balance and nerf him and make him unplayable at the higher tiers just because he's going to overperform at the 90%, which I feel is kind of how they responded too often in Overwatch 1, where they wanted all the numbers to be balanced across the board as opposed to having some ranked Pubstomper characters that just overperform and allowing it to happen and balancing for playability of the game as opposed to equity of win rates. Not everything needs an equal win rate for the game to play well. In fact, the game plays so well, the biggest complaint right now I feel is like most players that know how to play a lot of comps get frustrated at their teammates who don't. And you get a lot of the random matchmaking effect that I spoke about in an earlier video this week, where you get blown out in a matchup because your team doesn't have either the answer or the tactics to counterplay that comp. There's a lot of heroes in Overwatch right now, and considering most of them are viable, that's a huge game. Very complicated. And I've been hard at work in the coming weeks. We'll have more advanced guides again to help explain this nuance. And retroactively speaking, I'd say if they had this same attitude against Sojourn, the game health would have been better as well, where it's okay for her to underperform at most tiers if she has some high skill ceiling, and that's kind of the point of the character anyway. It never made sense to me, their logic, where they wanted Sojourn to perform at ranks that don't have aim when there's a lot of characters in the game that don't need aim really to win. So how are you going to make a aim-based character perform at all ranks when there's other options they're going against, like Torb, for example, insane pick for all metal rank players, and frankly, even like at the higher ranks too. He's one of my go-to picks. Or Junkrat, for example. Like the average player gets much more value spamming a lot of these characters as opposed to the precision headshot archetype, which is always going to be a high rank thing. So why did they apply that and force a result in ranks where it just didn't make sense? I feel this is like the opposite with the Reinhardt situation, where high rank players know how to counter Reinhardt. And here for the final section of the video, I will do you guys a solid and teach you how to do it so you don't feel like Rein is so much of a must pick. First of all, I feel a lot of times players lose to Earth Shatter because they either expect their Rein to block it or position in a way where they are vulnerable to it. It's a ripple effect of poor positioning throughout the entire game anyway that's going to cause this to happen. And especially on bigger maps, playing anti-tank characters like Ana or Zenyatta and positioning on a piece of cover from range that has a peak into where the Rein wants to go, you can land your utility on him to utterly shut him down. Zenyatta even more so right now, in my opinion, where it can be very difficult for him to beat any tank if you perma discord him and keep at range, because as you work down his resources, easier to do now after Zenyatta's ammo increase, actually. And the other example is playing a faster engaged tank, or any character for that matter that has mobility, Pharah, Tracer, Genji, whatever, ignoring him as he presses forward and go kill his team. Because a lot of those characters, especially Junker Queen, clean up in a traded fight much better than Reinhardt. Rein is a good character when he's set up in position with his healers alive, but as soon as his healers die, he's screwed. Junker Queen, conversely, has these outrageous cooldowns that she nukes into things. And because she's self-healing, she might be able to even survive without her healers. So even if he goes and kills your healers and you kill his, you will beat him in like a 1v1 scenario. Now that's harder to do against Reinhardts that know how to position properly, but honestly, nobody knows how to do that. It's not until really high ranks that I see any Rein players playing the defensive positions that we learned in Overwatch 1. Well, some of us did, I guess. They're in my Rein guide, my Rein mastery guide. They still hold up from all those years ago. Rein likes to defend corners or rush your backline, but he's not the best at rushing your backline. He's still the best at anchoring the objective and on a corner. So as soon as he starts positioning too aggressively, which it seems most Reinhardt players do, you can play a tank that plays that style better. There are quite a few characters that can focus him by pressuring out his defenses early. No offense to the enemy tank player, but I checked his profile and it says he's in GM right now, even a higher rank than I am, but I'm actually able to punish him because he plays so far forward that he uses his shield before his team is there. So just by pressing forward and pressuring it out first, well, Rein's a useless character if his shield breaks. It's what allows him to go aggressive and then get healed up when his health goes low. This is how a lot of your Reinhardts will be playing. Keep in mind the timer in your head of how long it takes for Rein to regenerate his shield. Often players won't even put it down long enough for it to fully regen. And if that's the case, he's not going to have an escape in order to hide his big head, and there's only so much healing that can be done. Then he'll just explode like a piñata. Rein likes to defend corners or rush your backline, but he's not the best at rushing your backline. He's still the best at anchoring the objective and on a corner. So as soon as he starts positioning too aggressively, which it seems most Reinhardt players do, you can play a tank that plays that style better. From the DPS point of view, the best DPS, in my opinion, to force a Reinhardt to want to swap, especially useful if you don't have one, is Bastion, who although is weak to other squishy characters because they're more dexterous in their dueling capability, Bastion's got the most volume of firepower to shred a Reinhardt. But my biggest Bastion tip is stop using his turret form too early when the fight is far from you. His sentry form is fine. It's not great. You're not necessarily going to get a kill, but focus on poking anything down in sentry form and lining up money nades from distance until the fight's committed, then use sentry form. Far too often do I see players try to snipe with it, and actually the range damage on the sentry form is better than turret anyway. Save turret when the fight is more committed in medium distance. Then you'll have the ammo and firepower to whittle down both Rein's shield and armor health, and then he'll fall easily. All right, guys, that's everything for today's video. Do you think it's okay for Rein to be overpowered for most players, seeing as once you learn the counterplay of the game, he falls down significantly to being a very fair character? Good, but not the meta-defining uncounterable beast that you might assume based on his lower ranked win rate. Let me know in the comment section down below. Link to the description is a Google form submission page for you guys to send in replay codes to get featured on the channel. Send in losses where you thought you played well, and your gameplay could be used in upcoming guide content. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave it a like, and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos come out. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.